Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range, and this is finally the ultimate episode in the Swiss Straight Pull Rifles series. We have finally reached the last one of the officially issued rifles. This is the famous ZFK 55 episode. I finally got hold of one. Thank you very much to its owner, who is off camera, for letting us show it and even shoot with it, which is very nice of him. Thank you very much. Now, if you remember the previous episode, we had a ZFK 31/43, which was the sniper, in inverted commas, rifle with a little 2.8 power periscope sight on the side. Shoots very well, but wasn't really very well liked. I suspect that there probably wasn't sufficient waterproofing on the sights. It probably got in the way when slung. Now, the marksman rifles were not individually issued rifles to infantrymen. They were unit equipment, which were issued out as needed. Someone would be designated sharpshooter, and whenever he turned up for a repeat course, or in the worst case to battle, he would have put his own personal K31 or K11 in the rack, and would have drawn his sharpshooter's rifle. This is the same. This is the way light machine gunners were issued as well. They had a rifle that they took home, and then when they turned up, they put their rifle in a rack and they take their LMG 25 or whatever. Now, this here is an incredibly heavy beast of a rifle, and I can see exactly why they were not necessarily popular. This is significantly heavier than a K31. It's even heavier than the Stgw 57, I think. It's certainly more unwieldy, and these served alongside the Stgw 57s as well. And they were supplemented and then presumably replaced, but I haven't got full information on that, by Stgw 57s with scope rails, which were also kept as unit materiel, unit weapons, on the same basis. You wouldn't go home with one with a rail on it. Now, you might notice that this is lacking its scope, which is in this tin, numbered to the rifle. This rifle is 3,167, and there were 4,000, somewhere in the 4,000s, made, and a certain number made up from parts afterwards. So let's first put the scope on it, and then we shall look at the rifle, because it's pretty funky. So this has belt loops, and I believe the idea was that in a battle during movement, you were intended to keep dismounting and remounting the scope, which is silly. I imagine nobody actually did that. So this goes on. It's got a little sort of saddle type mount. Hooks in at the front, and there's a push button at the rear. Locks in, and that is pretty solid. As far as quick detached scope mounts go, that is one of the more solid, but then that has a beast of a spring in it. So, scope on, and you'll notice that the scope is over the bore of the rifle. Now, if you've been following the series this far, you will know that Swiss rifles eject straight up. Except this one. Except this one. This one is a little different. In fact, it's a lot different. There's very few parts of this that are in common with a K31. I mean, and those parts are small parts like the sights. Basically, the action is canted 15 degrees clockwise as the shooter looks at it, so that a charger can be used, A, and B, so that empty cases can come out. Now, why a charger? Because it's not a sniper rifle, it's a designated marksman's rifle. So this is somebody who is participating fully in a firefight, just hopefully being more effective with his fire than his K31 or Stgw 57 equipped compatriots. Now this means that the bolt is mostly canted, the bolt handle is bent up. That's something that's not pointed out often in these videos. The end of the bolt handle is basically horizontal when it's in the rifle, but the whole of the rest of the bolt is canted by 15 degrees. I mean, it's just a real... the French term is usine à gaz, a gas factory of engineering to make a few thousand rifles. This is really serious stuff they've engaged in here. It's got a sort of Monte Carlo type checkered stock, which is quite pleasant, but it's extremely chunky. And this is heavy. It's got one of the worst bipods I've ever seen on any firearm. Big floppy thing in the middle, and it's long. And once I get back down behind it, you'll see that. And this has several purposes. One of which is to track moving targets, but also it being long and back means that if you're shooting downhill, you've got a lot of, or uphill, less so uphill, but certainly shooting downhill, because the Swiss Army is a defensive army, more likely to be shooting downhill at in this period of Russians. Folds up alongside the fore end like that. What also contributes to this being an incredibly heavy rifle is under here. And that should be open. Spring clip. That comes out. That is really, compared to a K31, that is pretty heavy. There is a lot of meat in this barrel, so we can slot that back in there. Screw that back up. It's all neatly captive. It's all quite clever. And that is it free float? Certainly stiff. Yeah, that's a free float, but then it's so stiff, it's so big and stiff that you wouldn't want to do it any other way. Front sight is very K31 style with the same diagonal slot, and then a monstrous muzzle brake on it. It's kind of FG42 style muzzle brake, which works very well, and the purpose of which is so that the shooter can observe his fall of shot. That is the point of it. And he can also deafen himself and everyone near him, but he can at least observe his fall of shot through his scope as he fires. And because it's a designated marksman rifle and not a sniper rifle, like a Dragunov, it has a bayonet mount. The scope, it's kind of a German number 1 post and 2 bars, but the post, instead of being pointed, it's flat topped for some reason. According to the book, these are supposedly capable on average, or typically, of 20 centimetres at 300 metres, which is about 2.3 minutes of angle, if I'm remembering rightly. Let's see what it does at 50. Okay, so I'm going to load this up and shoot it off this appalling bipod and see how it does. And I've left the group from an earlier video from the ZFK 31/43. Magazines are interchangeable with the K31, by the way. No recoil. I mean, this is really an incredibly efficient muzzle brake, but on this indoor range, my Lord, that is noisy. maybe I take back what I said about no recoil, but certainly light recoil. The flat top of the post isn't great. The floppy bipod, however, is awful. So that one there was the ZFK 31/43, and that's this one. It's slightly worse, but I suspect that if we put like a 10-15 round group through each of them, they'd both be roughly the same, probably. That one has a little bit more vertical in it, but these are only 6 round groups, so there's always room to play for. Certainly ahead of iron sights. Oh yes, you can use the iron sights under the scope, which I forgot to mention is 3.5 power, so comparable to a PU scope or a number 32 in British service. I think possibly because I shot the 43 off a bag, and I shot this off the floppy bipod. That might have had something to do with it, but it's sort of comparable. It's for the era, it's good accuracy. For a modern rifle, for a true modern sniper rifle, that is. But it's 1950s. It's a designated marksman rifle, and it's super cool, even if it's a great big heavy anchor. I can imagine that they were crow cannons that the new guy had to carry. So, thank you very much for watching. Thanks to the Range organisation for letting us come here and film, and thank you again to the owner of this nice rifle for letting us put some rounds through it. Patreon helps us very much to produce this kind of content. In fact, myself and the chap who is holding the camera right now have taken a day off work to come down here and turn a lot of Patreon money into noise for your delight and delectation. Thank you so much to all our patrons. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, etc. and see you again sometime. Bye!